Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another proRevenge Reddit video. In our first story, the proRevenge Guide to Avoiding Alimony. Let's jump right in. Here's the cast of characters. Me, a 30-year-old male, my best friend Ace, who's also a 30-year-old male, and my piece of crap ex, who I was married to for 5 years, a 28-year-old female. We were married right out of college after our graduate and undergrad respectively. Ace is single. Here's the story. 2 years ago, I worked at a startup in South Carolina and put in long hours that seemed to have a strain on our marriage. While our sex lives were good, I felt my ex was being distant at times and asked her about it, only to be reassured that there was nothing wrong and she understood the long hard hours. I both liked and hated this job. It was flexible in the hours, but I ended up working way more than a traditional 9 to 5 for similar pay at the time. Ace and I are best friends of over 13 years, since high school. There are a couple issues we have polar opposite stances on and are really passionate about our positions, but in general, we get along really well. One night, I invited him over for beer, and we got a little too drunk and ended up arguing a lot over this one particular issue. It didn't get physical, but some really harsh words were said by both parties, and it ended with him leaving the house and me visibly angry. The next morning, I called him up first thing, and we both apologized to each other, and that was that. However, my ex was unaware of this and came up to me bad-mouthing Ace. I thought this was a little atypical of her since she doesn't do that normally, but chalked it off to her being comforting and affectionate towards me. I told her it wasn't a big deal and that Ace and I were fine and left for work. Now, in what I can only describe as winning the Powerball, I met Ace at the gas station on the way to work. He normally works from home and was on his way to visit his dad for the weekend. We decided to have a couple beers to make up for the previous night and headed to a small quiet bar I like to visit. There, the unexpected happens, and Ace receives a call from my ex. She asks if he was alone, and he says yes, looking perplexed. This lovely woman then proceeds to apologize for my behavior the previous night and asks if she can make it up to him. He pretended that he can't hear her and puts it on speakerphone for both of us to hear and asks her to repeat. My ex proceeds to proposition him for sex using the cliched excuses of being lonely and how I work long hours and that how I wouldn't find out given our me and Ace falling out. She then repeats all the bad-mouthing she had done earlier in the day to me with the caveat that I said all of those things. Now, my ex is no Einstein, but surely there's no way Ace buys that crap. He tells her that he will call her in a bit because of a client and hangs up. I was devastated, with my face buried in my palms because I knew the marriage was over. I have a few strict boundaries in life, and I don't care if it's a 5-year or a 50-year marriage, cheating equals divorce. The only thing was if I could somehow get out of it without losing much, because I knew the alimony would flip me over given that I made nearly 3 times what she made. We didn't have kids and only little in marital property, and I was okay with losing half the joint account since I was young and there wasn't a whole lot in it. South Carolina has at-fault divorce for adultery, which bars the recipient from any alimony. The issue is that we didn't record the call and there was pretty much no proof outside of me and my friend's word of adultery. So I hatched a plan to allow the cheating to happen. Ace was hesitant because she was my wife at the time, but honestly, I saw red and that woman was dead to me, so I couldn't care less. I wanted evidence of cheating. Now, I gotta say, Ace managed to keep his cool and come up with a plan that seems so simple it's almost movie-like. We worked out the kinks together and decided that we would not speak of this until everything was done and dusted. Over the next hour, we planned out everything. He would accept her offer and meet my ex shortly after I left for work. I would feign missing a file and return only to hear sounds and start recording. Then I would catch them in the act, pretend that it was alarming and cause a fuss. To this day, I think the only reason I was able to act surprised was because I was insanely angry at my ex, so all the expletives just came naturally. I asked X to flip off forever once I caught them and told my wife that she'd hear from my lawyer. A bluff, I hadn't thought that far. I didn't bring up the bad-mouthing because I felt it would give away the whole plan. Cue my wife pleading and crying, literally begging me to forgive her and that it was a mistake out of desperation and loneliness. I told her I needed some time alone, walked out, drove to the nearest Walmart and broke down in the parking lot. I hadn't had any time to grieve in nearly a day and had been focused only on revenge. Then I called up a local attorney who seemed to have good ratings and told him what I had. I presented it as if I caught them in the act and didn't mention anything about the plan even to my attorney. Ace and I had figured earlier that I was technically giving consent so it wouldn't be adultery, but nobody but us needed to know that, and we were okay with taking it to our graves if we had to. Sketchy, yes. Deserved? Also, yes. At the advice of my attorney, I returned home a couple hours later to pack my stuff and told my ex I'd be living separately and that she could expect divorce papers soon. She continued to bawl her eyes out, and those were genuine tears. I think she was really remorseful, but I didn't give a flip. In fact, I drove the blade in deep. I reminded her of some of our fondest memories in college before our marriage, our honeymoon, some of the things I had done for her, etc., and how she repaid me by cheating with my best friend. It was a double-edged sword because I started tearing up a bit, but I think it needed to be said. I ended it with "I hope you'll do the right thing," and left. I probably shouldn't have talked to her as suggested by my attorney, but hey, I had to make her feel like the piece of crap she was. I don't know if she was genuinely remorseful or if my words stung her, or if she just broke internally, but she did not contest the divorce. I didn't owe her a cent in alimony and got away with just asset division. Some of our mutual friends caught wind of the cheating and pretty much shunned her from her circles. Her parents were kind of conservative and basically disowned her. Ace and I went cold turkey on her, and this woman basically didn't exist to me. Her standard of living just dropped drastically, and as of December 2020, she lost her job to the pandemic and had to move in with some guy according to one of those mutual friends. I'd be lying if I said the schadenfreude didn't put a smile on my face, but I do feel a bit bad for the woman I once knew. There is one aspect I feel guilty about though. Our mutual friends who all sided with me after the affair think I'm an innocent and benevolent soul who was cheated on and even forgave his best friend. All my good fortune is apparently well-deserved and I have a heart of gold. In reality, I'm quite the conniving guy who basically ensured she'd get flipped. I intend to keep it that way, honestly. All they need to know is how much of a piece of crap my ex was, and I feel 100% justified in my actions. The only case I'd have considered breaking my silence is if anyone judged Ace harshly. However, Ace and I don't have mutual friends and only our professional lives intersect. Here's the happy ending. The startup I worked for became successful and I made quite a lot of money when it was sold to a bigger company, none of which went to my ex. Ace is a true bro and unfortunately lost his job to the pandemic last June. I hooked him up with a better job at my parent company cause that man deserves everything in the world and more. We still have our disagreements on some issues, except now we just laugh about how it saved me from a horrible marriage. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then hit that subscribe button. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.